Hello everybody, my name is Tawqir Zafar and I am a faculty for history, and today I am going to start a series of video which you will be seeing, you will be watching on the YouTube in a week or 10 days for conceptual clarity of the important topics in history. So in today's lecture I will be discussing with you the socio-religious reform movement. Socio-religious reform movement is a part of the revolts and movement topic, which is a very important topic in modern India. It is very important for both prelims and mains exam. In the main exam, it is very important because two revolts and movement they ask in the main exam, mainly revolt of 1857 and socio-religious reform movement. And for PT also it is important. Since your PT is approaching and it is knocking the door in 2020, on 4th October you will have your PT exam. So it may be also fruitful for those students who are appearing this year, but very important for the main exam. So let us see what all things we need to study in socio-religious reform movement. Socio-religious reform movement. See, in this there are four categories of socio-religious reform movement which happened in 19th century India. One is, we call it in short SRRM. हम लोग इसे SRRM कहेंगे, socio-religious reform movement. It happened in Hindus first, Hindu SRRM, then in Muslims, then in Sikh SRRM, then in Parsis. Mainly Hindu SRRM is very important for exam. Here we need to focus on Raja Ram Mohan Roy RMR and Brahma Samaj. Then Swami Vivekanand, Ramakrishna Mission. Then Swami Dayanand Saraswati is there, Henry Vivian de Rosio is there, then Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar is there, Keshav Chandra Sen is there, Theosophical Society is there, several petty ones, Arya Samaj, then Theosophical Society, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, ICVS, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, so on and so forth. In Muslim also, there was a reform movement like it had happened in Hindus. We have, Aligarh movement, we have, Wahhabi movement, Ahmadiyya movement, Deobandi movement, Barelvi movement, several movements that we see. In Wahhabi is important, Wahhabi movement. Then Ahmadiyya movement, sometimes they ask in PT also, Ahmadiyya movement. Then Deoband movement, Social religious reform movement are of two types. One is revivalist movement, the other is reformist movement. In revivalist movement, we study the reforms of the movement of Swami Dayanand Saraswati, that is Arya Samaj, and in reaction to it, to Swami Dayanand Saraswati's movement, the Shuddhi movement, basically the organization was Arya Samaj. There were several movements and Muslims also started, and these movements were called as Tanzim movement, Tabligh movement. All these movements were responsible for revivalism. At the same time, they had parochial characters also, and which became or created a background for communalism and later partition also. So when we study partition, we study communalism, and there I may make the student understand how it played an important role in partition. Shuddhi movement, another revivalist movement that happened. So it is one of the you can say limitation of social justice reform movement. In Sikh also, Gurdwara reform movement is there. Reform movement is there, Singh Sabha movement is there. Then Namdhari, Nirankari, all these movements are there. Akali movement, Babbar Akali movement. So Babbar Akali they asked in the main exam also. So these type of things that they can ask you in the exam. In Parsai also the reform movement happened, and Rahnumai Mazad-e-Ahsan Sabha. Rahnumai Mazad-e-Ahsan Sabha. Rahnumai Mazad-e-Ahsan Sabha. See, in this lecture, I will not be discussing about the details of these movements that happened, but here I will be discussing the conceptual understanding of what was social justice reform movement, which happened in 19th century India, and how the British rule was responsible for such movement that happened. So let us try to understand. See, socio-religious reform movement, this happened in 19th century, and the pioneer of this movement was Raja Ram Mohan Roy, the pioneer, the foremost social reformers, because of which the movement started. And he started highlighting the social and religious problems in India, which were acting as a stumbling block to move India from medieval times to modern times. So in this, we try to understand the factors for social justice reform movement, the nature of social justice reform movement, and the limitations of social religious reform movement. That we need to evaluate that whether it was a successful reform movement or it was not a successful reform movement in complete sense. So it has four important dimensions. One is it is anti-social and religious evils that was existing in the society. It was against the social and religious evils that was existing in society. The second thing, it was against anti-colonial, cultural and ideological hegemony. Anti-colonial, cultural and ideological hegemony. Then it is the third dimension, you can say. This is D1, this is D2. The third dimension is accepting good of West. What is the best part of the Western civilization? Accepting good of West and rejecting bad. accepting good and rejecting bad. Then a revival of old and true culture of India. Revival of old and true culture of India. These are the four dimensions that we study in socio-religious reform movement. See, in 19th century, India was facing several problems in the field of, social aspects, religious aspects. There were various problems like caste rigidity. There were problems like, the problems the women were facing. They were, suppressed in the society. They were the most suppressed entity, you can say. They were exploited. There were problems like, female infanticide, sati. Sati was the problem, in which the women used to, sleep on the funeral pyre of the husband, and it was a social blot in the society. It was a blot in the society. Then, prohibition of widow remarriage. Prohibition of widow remarriage, caste rigidity. Caste rigidity was there. The exploitation of the lower caste, the dominance of, the upper caste, the exploitation of the lower caste, caste discrimination was there, religious obscurantism was there, misbelief was there, the society was ultra-orthodox and hyper-conservative. So these problems were existing in society, which was a stumbling block, or you can say obstacle in the development of India. So the reformers like, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Vivekanand, Keshav Chandra Sen, then Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Henry Vivian Derozio, all these people, they started thinking that these are the basic problems in which, India is actually not able to come out of this colonial yoke or culture. So colonial culture was also dominating. Why? Because, with the establishment of the British rule, there was spread of colonial culture. See, in colonialism, what happens? There is economic exploitation, there is political subjugation, and there is cultural dominance. In cultural dominance, what happens? They start, attacking the indigenous culture and imposing their Western culture. And when the British came to India, they came as trader, then they became ruler, and they finally, they became conqueror, and finally they became ruler. And then they started, imposing their Western culture, because what they saw was the problems that was existing in society. They were not seeing the real things. What Vivekananda has highlighted, the revival of the old and true culture of India. And in this sense, it was the social justice reform movement was an expression of Indian form of Renaissance. Renaissance happened in, Europe, in Italy, and it was the revival of the old and the rational teaching, the art and architecture. It was based on humanism, logic, reasoning. Same thing also happened in India, but there was a difference, Then, it was a revival of the old culture and true culture, in which, Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda, was showing it as a cultural defense. Cultural defense. That what you consider, what the Britishers consider, that our culture is outdated, redundant, backward, traditional, it was anti-humanity, because these are fabrication, these are concoctions, these are interpolations of the people, the conservative people who are living in the society. These are not actually what is there in Vedas and Upanishad. It is not there what is being, seen by the British. So obviously when they see this barbaric act is going on, sati, imagine sati, female infanticide, the women are suppressed, they were not educated, they're confined to domestic household work. What they will do? They will start imposing their culture. And they start imposing their culture, and this was called as colonial cultural hegemony. So in this sense, the social religious reform movement has two important objectives. What? Number one, to eradicate such evil practices, religious practices, misbelief, ultra orthodoxy, and also to attack this colonial culture. The attack done by these Christian missionaries, they started attacking on our socio-cultural and religious ethos, and they started converting the Indians into Christians. The Muslims and the Hindus, they started converting. So this Christian missionary was also having this mission of, this colonial objective. Because you see, when you study colonialism, one of the reason for the rise of colonialism was Christian missionaries. That they start, they come as to spread Christianity, but in the garb of spreading Christianity and education, they started spreading the colonial dominance of Britain. So when the British colonial empire was established, they started, attacking the indigenous culture. So the objective was to fight the indigenous problems. These problems, female infanticide, social problems, the backwardness, this misbelief, and also to attack the colonial, cultural and ideological hegemony. What is hegemony? Hegemony is cultural dominance. Like we say US hegemony. When they are completed with the work of political dominance, economic dominance, and then they come to cultural dominance. Third dimension we need to understand, that they accepted good of the West and rejected the bad. Obviously, the work of Christian missionaries, their openness, our culture, their culture is different, but that doesn't mean that, our culture is bad. So we accepted their Western lofty ideals. We accepted their, the ideals of French Revolution, liberty, equality and fraternity, which created an ideological base for the revolution that happened in India. We accepted their spirit of freedom of American Revolution. We accepted the ideas of Western political thinkers like John Locke, the father of liberalism, Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Kant, Immanuel Kant, and other, utilitarian thinkers. We accepted their lofty ideals, Western lofty ideals. Western lofty ideals, which created ideological base and acted as a fuel in the fire, because in the national movement, two movements were going on. One was ideological movement, the other was mass movement. So ideology is very important to run a movement. So yes, we were accepting good of the West in the Western political thinking, but we rejected their colonial cultural dominance and ideological dominance on our culture. So improving ourselves and defending our culture, and in this revival of the old culture, our old real culture, and here only we see the role of Swami Vivekananda. It is said that if you want to see India, you can see through the eyes of Swami Vivekananda. He was a great personality, a social reformer, and he was the disciple of a great mentor, Ramakrishna Paramhans. And the kind of applaud that he got in Chicago when, the different top daily newspapers, they, applauded the speech of Vivekananda, where he says that, there should be a balance between spiritualism and materialism. And that shows one of the nature of social justice reform movement, that it was materialistic in character, it was secular in character. It was not like, Jainism and Buddhism, or, Sufi movement or Bhakti movement that happened in the medieval times, or Jainism and Buddhism in the ancient times. So we see the revival of old culture, and Vivekananda was the first person who started questioning the cultural dominance of the West. He was the first person. He is also considered as father of Indian nationalism. UPSC asked this question in the main exam. He started inculcating these ideas of nationalism in the mind of youth that time. He started questioning these problems. He started glorifying our culture. And this glorification will what will happen? When you glorify your culture, this will give you self-confidence. You start loving your culture. When you start loving your culture, you start fighting for it. When you start fighting for it, the feelings of nationalism emerges. So rather than criticizing the things which is existing that time, which is real concoction, in fact it was this culture which was marked by, the elements of Vedas and Upanishads. And it has the element of rationalism. It has the element of logic. Authenticity demands logic. Eradicating the old thing, unnecessary, obnoxious things, obnoxious elements in the society, like the, elements which were against the, the freedom of women and other social problems and misbelief. So revival of old culture, revival of true culture, this cultural defense, and in this sense it was Indian Renaissance. Social religious reform movement was called as Indian Renaissance, and it started in Bengal, because we see, the British rule was there in Bengal, and the most affected area was Bengal presidency. That is why we see, the different social justice reform movement which started in Bengal. Brahma Samaj is one of the example. And Brahma Samaj is considered, Raja Ram Mohan Roy is considered as, one of is a regional reform movement, which is also one of the flaw of social justice reform movement, that it was not a pan-India movement. So in this sense, it was Indian Renaissance. But yes, there is a difference between Renaissance that happened in the Western world and which happened in India. It is more like reforms and revival, reformist and revivalist in character in the case of India. See, these four things, this is creating ideological basis, which is actually building block for nation building. And the role played by the thinkers, the social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he did social reforms, he did religious reform, he did political reforms. The religious and social reforms, he was talking about monotheism. What was monotheism? Believing in one God, unity of one God, which will, eradicate this social disharmony and will lead to social unification, and finally will lead to economic unification and further political unification and then nation building process. That is why we see that Raja Ram Mohan Roy is considered as the father of modern India. Or they ask in the main exam 2013, they ask how Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the father of modern India. Yes, because of his reform. How Raja Ram Mohan Roy, was the foremost thinker of the social justice reform movement, or pioneer in the social justice reform movement. How Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he did the role played by him in abolition of sati, the pressure he generated on William Bentinck, the Governor General of that time, Governor General of Bengal, in fact. And later he became Governor General of India by Charter Act of 1833. and then how this reform took place. And the abolition of sati was done. It was legalized in 1829, and later you see how Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar played a very important role, who was a votary of women right. He convinced Lord Dalhousie, the Governor General of India that time, and he pressurized Lord Dalhousie to pass an act which was called as Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. These reforms that is happening in India and carried out by the Britishers was in response to the pressure that was being created by the Indians, and at the same time the utilitarian thinking that started dominating from 1813. Utilitarianism is what? Maximum happiness for the maximum number of people. We find utilitarian thinkers like Jeremy Bentham and J.S. Mill and James Mill. All these utilitarian thinkers were influencing William Bentinck and Lord Dalhousie, these kind of people, and they were influencing, and such reforms took place in India. That is why you see, when these reforms were taking place, this created basically this created discontentment and resentment in the mind of the conservative class, and they started considering this reform as an attack on the Indian culture. And that is why one of the reasons for the revolt of 1857 was religious factors, that the Christian missionaries and the Britishers, they don't even want to leave our culture. They want to attack us on all aspects. They want to blow us in the smithereens. So it was the part of their imperial exercise. What is that? In the conservative class, they started considering the rule of the British in India. So we find these four dimensions creating a solid background for nationalism, also creating this ideological basis. You see the kind of ideological basis that was created in which gave rise to the spirit of freedom from American Revolution and the liberty from French Revolution, and from the ideals of liberty there emanated the sentiments of nationalism from French Revolution in 1789. That is why you see the revolution of 1830 in Europe in 1848, and further there was unification of Germany and Italy, and that is why we see the process of nation building or rise of nation states in Europe. And that is what we see in the case of India as well, that there was the process of the rise of nationalism. So social justice reform movement is playing a very important role. Raja Ram Mohan Roy is playing a very important role in the rise of modern state, and that is why he is considered as father of modern India. Dalhousie, during this time when he came as Governor General of India in 1848, he carried out various reforms like railways and postal system and telegraph system and Widow Remarriage Act, and the development of PWD, Public Works Department, development of infrastructure, and was considered as father of modern India as well. So 2 to 3 questions I am linking. Father of Indian nationalism, Swami Vivekananda. Father of modern India, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Father of modern India again, Dalhousie. And Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar played a very important role in the making of modern India because of his acts, because of his reforms that he did in the case of widow remarriage. He was a great, women emancipator, liberator. He talked about widows. He talked about, he eased out the process of studying Sanskrit. He opened schools and colleges, reforms in education and stuff. So there also we find, the role played by him. When we try to understand the parochial nature of the social religious reform movement, there we find, the role of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Dayanand Saraswati. In this case, he when he started Shuddhi movement, the revivalist movement, where the number of the Hindus that got converted into Islam and Christianity, to bring them back into the original fold. And in reaction to this Shuddhi movement, there was revivalist movement that was taking place in Muslim as well. Tanzim movement and Tabligh movement, all these kind of movement. This created a kind of the contradiction between the Hindus and Muslim, which created a solid background for communalism, and which became a reason for partition, which started the partition movement, the Pakistan movement, which started from 1937. And what has happened, you know it. In 1947 the partition was accomplished. So we are trying to understand 3-4 things from this: socio-religious reform movement, role of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, the factors, the dimension. If you see, D1 plus D2 plus D3 plus D4 is equal to SRRM, hence proved. Though it is not a mathematical formula, but yes, I am trying to make you understand through diagrams and flowchart, so that you understand well, you get more closer to history. Now, another thing that you need to understand was the nature of SRRM, nature of social religious reform movement. Okay, then you see, what is the nature of social religious reform movement? It is progressive in character, it is developmental in character, it is more materialistic, it is secular in nature. It has nothing to do with religious elements like God, soul, hereafter, transmigration of soul and stuff like that, what we study in Jainism and Buddhism. So we find it a very different. It has the element of humanism, it has the element of rationalism, it has the element of rationalism. It talks about logic. It says that authenticity demands logic. Raja Ram Mohan Roy started questioning some of the interpolation which was done in Bible. He started questioning different, he gave the concept of monotheism, which can lead to social harmony and nation building later on. So these reforms were revivalist in character. These reforms were reformist in character. These reforms were, these reforms were nationalistic in character. These reforms are regional reforms. Regional reforms, that it is confined to a particular area, that is Bengal. For example, Brahma Samaj was confined to Bengal. It was confined to, I am also trying to make you understand the limitations of social justice reform movement, that it was a regional reform. It was not a pan-India in character. It was confined to urban areas. It was confined to middle class. It was confined to middle class. It was confined to urban areas. These reforms were, having the element of, these were parochial also in nature. Like we see in the case of, Arya Samaj, Swami Dayanand Saraswati's reform. Shuddhi movement. which is the part of this revivalist movement, Shuddhi movement, nationalistic reforms, confined to urban areas, confined to middle class. The reach out was not in rural areas. These are limitation. This gave rise to communalism. These are limitation. It could not affect, every aspects in the in the urban areas. And at the same time, it was not able to, end all the social evils, except we find there were social legislation that was being carried out. That is abolition of Sati Act and, Widow Remarriage Act are, to be noted. So we find that there were number of, problems, and these reform was trying to end those or challenge those, so that, these reforms can make India free from the British clutches. If it was rationalism, the element of rationalism was there, it was modern as well. It was having the characteristics of modernization. It was having the characteristics of developmental character also. It had progressive in humanism. Central element was humanism. It was not focusing on something which is, to make a structural change in the society. It was focusing to make the human life better. It was to attack the problem of the Indian society. And in this case, these reformers, as I told you, played a very important role. Swami Vivekanand and, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, they played a very important role. See, that is why even Hindu social justice reform movement happened, then, Hindu middle class rose up. When Hindu middle class rose up, the Muslims were lagging behind, because social justice reform movement started late in Muslims. So this Hindu middle class, they grab all the opportunities that were generated by the Britishers. And later, when the Muslims, when there were no reforms, later on the reforms were carried out by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and others, Aligarh movement and, Deoband movement and the Ahmadiyya movement and other movement, which had more, religious element also. They wanted to reform more religious things. But Aligarh movement played a very important role, which reformed the Indian Muslims. So they were lagging behind in the Muslim middle class from Hindu middle class, and this created a gap between the Hindu middle class and the Muslim middle class. And this gap, and in this case, the British started, appeasing the Indian Muslim and Indian leaders, that, Congress is doing atrocities on the Indian Muslims, and, the Muslim leaders also, started taking help from the British. An appeasement process started by the British. So unhealthy politics developed, in which, the Indian Muslim leaders were responsible for, you can say, for partition in India, because of the rise of the communalism. Like in the same way, Hindu communalism was also rising. The role played by Hindu Mahasabha, or, Shuddhi movement that developed, and then, Sangathan movement that developed, then RSS that developed, and here also this side also these Tanzim movement, Tabligh movement, these all things were also developing. So this created a clash between the Hindus and the Muslims. The kind of element that was developing in the Muslim inferiority complex, that, the Hindus are rising because the reform happened earlier. The Muslims were lagging behind. And this gap was fulfilled by some radical Indian Muslim leaders and the British, who had the agenda of divide and rule policy, which becomes a reason for the communalism and later partition that happened, which I discuss in the topic partition, how it played a very important role in partition of Pakistan movement. So when Muslim League started representing the Indian Muslim as their that they are the representative of the Indian Muslims, which was wrong at that time. And then, this social justice reform movement played an important role. If you try to understand the significance, played an important role in the development of nationalism, nation building. And in this case, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Vivekanand, the stalwarts, and the Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, then later in case of women also, Pandita Ramabai, all they played a very important role in the development of the Indian society. Once the social unification was done, the economic unification and the political unification is very easily possible, and India started moving on the lines of modernization, though with the presence of the conservative elements who started questioning Brahma Samaj and Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So this social justice reform movement, the conceptual part, I think it must be clear to you. In future I'll come with more and more videos. So in this lecture I have tried to make you understand the conceptual part of the social justice reform movement, and now it is your duty, because I cannot come with long lectures on the YouTube. It will take around 2 to 3 hours to make this topic understand. But yes, conceptual, the objective of these classes are to give you conceptual understanding of some of the topics which can be helpful for you in the prelims and the main examination. So I hope this must be clear to you, and thank you so much for a patient hearing.